Hello, and welcome to another edition of SoCo Chat, a podcast where we hear from county leaders, discuss the latest news, and talk about all things related to this wonderful corner of California known as Sonoma County. My name is Paul Gullickson, Communications Manager for the County of Sonoma, and I'll be your host once again. Today, we're going to dig into a new report that reveals some surprising insights into how women and girls are faring in Sonoma County. Our guest today for that discussion is Janice Blalock, a former commissioner of the Sonoma County Commission on the Status of Women. But before we talk to Janice, I want to start with our trivia question for this week. Can you name the trailblazer who was the first woman elected to the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors? What year was she elected to the board? If you know the answer, call us at 707-565-2242 or email us at publicaffairs, one word, at sonoma-county.org. Be sure to include your phone number so we can let you know if you won. Now, let's dive into today's topic. Sonoma County is home to 254,000 women and girls. A new report by the county's Commission on the Status of Women paints a detailed statistical picture of this increasingly diverse part of our county. And here to talk again is Janice Blalock, the recent chair of the Commission on the Status of Women. Welcome to SoCo Chat, Janice.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you being here. Would you tell us, how did this report come about?
Well, in 2019, we started a project, actually 2018, a project that was called Voices of Sonoma County Women.
Right, I remember. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we went around and did listening sessions all throughout the county, live listening sessions. We had a survey that we put out to find out what the top issues were that women were dealing with in Sonoma County, and then to brainstorm on ways to maybe rectify some of those situations. And so this culminated in a report that we wrote in 2020, and then the pandemic hit.
Oh.
And we said, okay, well, all these things that we discovered are probably much worse now. And there are other things I'm sure that have come up for women during this pandemic. So we said we had to come up with a new survey that was specific to the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that. We didn't have live sessions, of course, because of the shutdown. But we did a lot more outreach online and ended up with double the responses we had had previously, which was great. And then once we had completed that survey, which was the end of 2021, we said, okay, what are we going to do with this? How are we going to write this report? But the state of California had come out with basically a grant, $5 million grant, for projects that would help with women's economic recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And that those funds were going to be managed by the State Commission on the Status of Women. And they invited all the commissions in the state and nonprofits to apply for funds for a project that would revolve around economic recovery.
Okay.
And so we said, well, maybe we could work with a professional organization. We're all volunteers. A professional organization to write this report, to make it a little more in depth. And so we worked with the Mount St. Mary's. They have an organization there that writes reports for commissions. They've done this many, many times. And so we collaborated with them. They were interested in taking our data and also state census data, just the Sonoma County part of it, to work on a report.
Okay.
We won a grant and then also used some of our own budget and some state, some county investment funds for translating it to Spanish and had a report.
Okay. Well, that's great. Well, this is very ambitious. And let's talk about the pandemic. Obviously, the pandemic had a huge toll on many people, but you found that a new understanding about how much of an impact it had on women and girls in Sonoma County. Tell us what you found.
Well, I mean, as we know, it impacted us in pretty much every way. And the fact that it followed on the heels of the fires that you've written about,
yeah.
all the fires, all the trauma that our county had already been through, then having this pandemic, it impacted mental health tremendously.
Yeah.
It impacted housing. more people became unhoused or had to move in with family members. Job loss, if not job loss, hours reduced, so income reduction primarily for women. Of course, people fear of this pandemic, but having jobs where they had to work and be on the front line, so they were exposed. Lack of access to health care. Everything was shut down. Childcare basically disappearing.
Right.
Schools closing. I mean, so it's all intersectional. It's like everything impacted everything else.
Right. So it was a culmination of a lot of things. So in some ways, the survey was a great time to really get a handle on what a lot of women and girls were dealing with in particular.
Yeah, it was. And now, of course, we've had a lot of recovery since then, but still some of the things that are happening now, for instance, having to do with income, with a lot of women that had to either step back from their jobs because they had kids at home that they now needed to be the teachers for.
Right.
Or they had to go part-time or something else that's like their jobs have taken a step back. And so that impacts income inequality. The vast majority of the people that took over that care of children and our elders was women. So, it's like a domino effect.
Right.
In a way.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about affordable childcare. I mean, that's obviously a hard thing to come by these days, but it makes it obviously easier if we can get parents in the workforce, if it's to be found. But how did you find the impacts of? What did your study find about the impacts of childcare in Sonoma County?
Well, we pretty much immediately lost 5,000 to 10,000 slots for kids and childcare.
Yeah.
So they simply weren't around anymore.
Right.
They weren't available. Childcare centers had to close.
Yeah, because they had nobody coming to them.
They had no one coming, or if they did, the amount of money they'd have to spend on cleaning materials, the PPE, all of that on a budget where they're already on a shoestring. Things like that. The fear, of course, of spread of COVID. So we lost a tremendous number of slots. So again, that meant a lot of parents had to stay home.
And more often than not, it's the women.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I'm going to interject here that I happen to be on the board for Measure I, which is Our Kids, Our Future. So, all this study that we did and that other organizations have done has been about, this tremendous loss and how do we impact
make
that?
Up for that.
How do we make up for that and expand it and pay people a living wage? And so, there are things we can do now to move forward
to help people.
Like, yes, on Measure I.
Well, let's talk about let's talk about income, because the report found that women increased their median earnings by 15% between 2016 and 2020. But despite those gains, they still took home only 88% of what men earned. What are the causes and implications of all that?
Yeah, it's a lot of different things. Part of it is undervaluing the women's work, the types of jobs that women tend to be in tend to be lower paying. Whether that's valid or not is a completely different story. You can have kind of a false, not an equivalency between similar jobs that are paid differently, that tend to be jobs that more women do. So part of it is that. Part of it is certainly having to take a step back. And, when you're out of the workforce for a little bit, we found this also when women go out of the workforce for a little while, having children or whatever, then your career takes a step back.
Yeah, you lose momentum.
You absolutely lose momentum. And so it's harder to get those promotions. Or when you do, maybe you're 2 steps behind a man that's working in the same field who take that time away.
Right.
So things like that, the value of the jobs, but also needing to sometimes take a step back for various reasons, mostly a lot of times caregiving type of reasons.
Yeah.
But maybe you got an increase, but it's still not, at that level because you're starting behind.
Yeah. Are there other findings from your report that really jumped out at you that you find yourself talking about?
Poverty definitely opened our eyes to how much poverty there is in Sonoma County.
Tell me more about that.
Well, so within Sonoma County, I think it's 9% of families that have children in the home fall below the poverty line. When you are a single mom with kids, 14%. So 1 in 5, basically, women are
below
the poverty line in Sonoma County. So that was having those numbers.
Right.
We knew it was a problem, but seeing those numbers is a big deal.
Yeah.
And the fact that during the pandemic especially, a lot of the women that were needing to be single parents at home having a harder time budgeting their time to do all the things they need to do and having access to childcare and school and all those kinds of things. They really wish they had paid leave.
Right.
And that's something that I hope our leaders can start really focusing on, offering paid medical leave or family leave for all different kinds of reasons.
Right.
It's really important. I mean, this is probably not the last emergency we're going to have.
Right. Yeah, but when that happens and you're a single mom,
Yeah.
you're going to have more that fall below the poverty line.
Exactly.
When that happens. Right?
Yeah. And also an interesting kind of byproduct of this was finding a larger percentage of people who identify as in the LGBTQ population than in our previous survey. So I don't know if more people are just feeling more comfortable with their identity, or if there's been a movement into Sonoma County. If more people in those populations. So that was interesting. There's a lot.
Yeah.
It's like a 75-page report.
Yeah. No, there's so many nuggets of important information for our community to know.
Yes.
And I wish we could share it all. But tell us what
we can.
Yeah. Well, but they can go and read it for themselves, right? You're going to tell them how to do that. But what's next? How will this information be used to come up with solutions for some of the challenges that have been identified?
Yeah. Well, so the Commission on the Status of Women is not a service provider. So we collected data, we created a report, and then we gladly give it to all the people who can use that information, whether it's a nonprofit or it's a county official or a city official. There's a lot of data in there that people might be able to utilize in grant writing, or for policy, for investing more data and information into moving a policy forward. So that's what we really hope will happen. We did a presentation on this report to a lot of nonprofits and local elected officials on Juneteenth. And it was great because we were just like, we in fact gave them all either a hard copy of the report or a little link to the report so that they can look at it anytime they want and take any information they want from it.
That's great.
So that's sort of the goal. Here you go. Please do great things with this information.
Well, on that note, how can people read this report for themselves? Where can they find it?
I think the easiest thing is just to go to our webpage. If you Google Sonoma County Commission on the Status of Women or Sonoma County CSW, you could Google Sonoma County Report on the Status of Women. Any of those things will take you to that page. And you'll see a link that says data and reports. So just click on that, and it's there in English and in Spanish. And our previous reports in there too, which is much shorter, but it's very, very interesting as well. That was from 2020. There's all kinds of interesting reports in there.
Well, that's
so
good.
I highly recommend you look at it.
That's great. Well, I'm curious, are you hoping to maybe recreate this report in the future so you can see how we're improving or where we're not improving in certain areas?
Well, I'm not on the commission anymore, so it would be for the next generation of commissioners to do that. I hope they do.
Yeah.
We were
There'll certainly be value in seeing the progress, the trends.
Yeah. We were hoping for this to be sort of a legacy project that we could put our stamp on and that it would go forward. It did change somewhat because of the focus being on the pandemic this time. It's a little different from the previous report, but there's still things that overlap. So I'm certainly hoping maybe in a year or two, this next group of commissioners will want to take this on.
Well, it's a very ambitious project, but it's an important snapshot for the county as a whole.
Definitely.
One thing I want to note here, many people may not know that the Women's History Month actually started right here in Sonoma County. And that started back in 1978, as I understand it. That was when the Commission on the Status of Women planned a series of events in March of that year to highlight women's contributions to American history, culture, and society. So maybe you could help us understand, what is the role of the commission today?
Today, I would say, I mean, still we're sort of we're a voice for women to get information, in particular to the Board of Supervisors. I still say we because I'll probably be a commissioner in my head forever. But they appoint us to basically let them know of any inequities, any things that are going on they need to be aware of, issues that we'd like for them to focus on or that they may want us to focus on. So and we're well aware of many issues. Reproductive rights is a big one that our commission's been working on, having available information for people to access. Our junior commission is amazing. This year, I think we have 22 high school students that are part of this commission, and they are a force to be reckoned with, and they make you feel hopeful for the future because they're engaged, they want to vote, they're interested, they're leaders, and so mentoring those people as well, our future commissioners, and leaders is an important part of it.
Well, that's tremendously. And this report is an incredible asset for the county and important, as you say, important snapshot. So thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is really interesting. Well, thank you, Janice, for being with us today. And as a thank you, we'd like to offer you one of our SoCo Chat coffee mugs.
I love it.
To take with you. And we'd also like to, once again, give our listeners a chance to get one of our SoCo Chat coffee mugs. If you answer this week's trivia contest, you'll be entered into a drawing to win one. Our question, once again, is this: who is the first woman elected to the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors, and what year was she elected to the post? If you know, call us at 707-565-2242 or email us at publicaffairs@sonoma-county.org, and be sure to include your phone number so we can let you know if you've won. Also, once again, if you have comments about this or any other segment or have a suggestion for a topic for a future SoCo Chat discussion, please email us at that same address, publicaffairs@sonoma-county.org. We would love to hear from you and hear your thoughts. Thank you all, and we hope you continue to follow us on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, and of course, YouTube. Thank you all. We'll see you next time, and thank you, Janice.
Thank you. It was fun.